All right, guys, let's try this one more time. I actually just did most of this and realized there's a little mistake in there, and had like a little coughing fit in the middle of it. So, we're going to go back. We're going to try this again. I wanted to kind of do a couple of practice problems with you guys and see how you're doing. We're going to go through the same stuff we did yesterday. So, if you guys can go ahead and write these three down, first thing we're going to do here, we're going to find the measure of angle x. Gave you guys a triangle XYZ with two side lengths there, 3 and 8. The second one, we're going to go through and we are going to find the measure of that side AB. I gave you one side length and an angle. And then the third problem, I asked you guys, can the sine or the cosine ever be greater than 1? So I want to know, can the sine or the cosine of an angle ever be bigger than 1 and why? So just like last time, I want you guys to go ahead and work these out on your own, see if you guys can figure them out, and then go ahead and scroll forward in the video and see if you skip forward in the video, see if you guys got the same answers. If you got the same answers, you did the same way, you guys are fine. You don't have to listen to the explanations. If you guys had any errors, then I want you guys to go back and check it, okay? All right, so on any trig assignment, when you guys are doing this, first thing that I want you guys to go through and do is we are going to write SOHCAHTOA somewhere. I think it's a good idea to put it up on top so we have it. But remember, SOHCAHTOA is always going to give us, tell us which trig functions we're working with. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent is opposite over adjacent. When they ask you guys to go through and to find the measure of an angle, so they ask us to find the measure of angle x, we actually want this value right here. Okay, so we're looking for the measure of that angle. Draw that side again. So we're looking for the measure of this angle. When you're looking for the measure of an angle, we're going to use inverse trig, okay, guys? So we need to figure out which two sides that we have and how they relate to the angle. That'll tell us which trig function to use, and then basically it's calculator work from there. So the side across from y is the hypotenuse. Side across from x is our opposite. Other side is going to be the adjacent. So I was given two side lengths here. I was given the 3 and the 8. Those are on the opposite and the adjacent. So if we come back over to SOHCAHTOA, that's going to be tangent here. Tangent is O over A. So we know the tangent of an angle is the ratio of the opposite side over the adjacent. So the inverse tangent takes that ratio and gives us the angle back. So what we're going to want to do here is we're going to want the inverse tangent. So tan negative 1 of, and then set up the ratio. The ratio is opposite over adjacent. So the opposite side length here is 3. The adjacent is 8. And then from there, it's calculator work, guys. I've been using the Desmos calculator. So if you guys just Google Desmos scientific calculator, you guys can find it. And I did this problem earlier, but I'm going to do it one more time just so you guys can see. Inverse tangent, tan negative 1. Go back to main, put 3 divided by 8 because those are our side lengths. And we get 20.55. So I'm going to call that 20.56 degrees. Make sure when you guys are working through the problems, if they tell you to round to the nearest degree, I want you guys to round to the nearest degree. If they say round to the nearest tenth or the nearest hundredth, make sure that's what you guys do, okay? Second one, they asked us to find the length of this side AB. So since there's no value there, I'm going to go and I'm going to put an X on that side. And every trig problem, just like I said before, you guys are going to go back and you guys are going to identify your three sides. So if we come to C, side across is the hypotenuse. The angle measure I'm given is O. Other side is A. So on this problem, let's change our highlighter color here. So on this problem, we're working with the 11 and we're trying to find that X. So I've got A and H. So if I come back to SOHCAHTOA again, A and H is going to be cosine. Now here we're trying to find a side length, so we don't need to worry about inverse. So here we're going to want the trig function of our angle. The cosine of 48 degrees. Remember, the cosine of 48 degrees is really a ratio of two side lengths. It's the ratio of the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Okay, so the cosine of 48 degrees, that has to be the adjacent side, which is 11, over the hypotenuse, which is x. Now, to go through and to solve this, you guys can remember, if you guys remember our trick that we had, when x was on the bottom, it always ended up as division. So if you guys just wanted to go ahead and flip these two, the x goes here and the cosine of 48 goes here, that happens every time x is on the bottom, and you guys can do that. If not, we can go through and we can solve it, okay? So here we can multiply both sides by x because we got to get x by itself. I've got x out of that denominator, and now I know that x times the cosine of 48 degrees is equal to 11, and I can go through and divide by that cosine of 48. So remember, guys, you can always go through. Let's get our final answer here, and then we'll talk about that. So we wanted, it was 11 divided by cosine of 48, right? Always make sure calculator's in degree mode. 11 divided by cosine of 48, 16.439. So let's call that 16.44. So that side length x is equal to 16.44. And that's units, whatever it is, inches, feet. So you guys can remember here that when you're working with these trig functions, I'm just making up values here, but if you've got an equation that says, hey, the tangent of 11 equals 14 over x, your answer, x is equal to 14 divided by the tangent of 11. Okay? If you guys have the sine of 72 equals 26 over x, when you guys go to solve that, you're going to end up with x equals 26 divided by the sine of 72. You guys are always going to multiply through by that x and divide through by the trig function. So if you just want to flip those two values, you can, okay? Last one, last practice problem. Can sine or cosine ever be greater than 1 and y? The answer is no. Reason being, if you guys think about a right triangle, there's something called, I think it's called the triangle inequality theorem. I'd have to actually go back and look at it to be honest with you guys, but I'm pretty sure it's called the triangle inequality theorem. It says that the ratio of these two sides, if we start setting up inequalities, the biggest side is across from the biggest angle. So if you guys have a right triangle regardless, the biggest angle always has to be this 90-degree angle. In order to be a right triangle, we got to have a 90-degree angle. The biggest the other angle can be is 89. So that means that the side across from the right angle always has to be the largest side. So it doesn't matter which what goes here, what goes there. I could put x, I could put y, I could put whatever I want. But if I think about this, the sine of any angle on there is going to be something, let's just go ahead and call this a. So the sine of a is x over the largest side, whatever that value is. Cosine of a would be y over the largest side. If you guys have a fraction and the denominator is bigger, that's always going to be smaller than 1. So really the reason that this can't happen is because the hypotenuse is the longest side. And the hypotenuse is in the denominator. That's a question that comes up. It's just an understanding thing. So it's something teachers like to ask. If you guys were in class with me, that would have been a test question. But over distance learning, I just wanted to kind of go over and talk about it. So this was just meant to be kind of helpful for you guys. If you guys were struggling with finding angles or finding sides, just a quick couple of problems to go through and to practice on. I will have another one on solving right triangles for you guys tomorrow. To be completely honest with you guys, I'm kind of bored at home. So I'm going to try to post a video every day. These are just going to be practice problems. The other ones, like I said, on Monday and Wednesday, there'll be lessons. Okay. All right, guys, I will talk to you tomorrow.